Welcome to the podcast, From One Mother of an Addict to Another. This is a space of sharing heartfelt personal experiences, insightful thoughts, and powerful suggestions, which can hopefully assist and offer strength navigating your journey alongside a loved one facing addiction and mental illness.
Hi, welcome to the podcast episode, Aftercare. What is aftercare? What happens after rehab is basically aftercare, right? So your kid is sober for 30 days, right? Because they're in rehab. They're being watched every day. They don't have access. So now they're out. What do? They could go home. They could go back to where they were living before. If it was off-campus housing, maybe they were in school already. They go back to school, or they go back to an apartment situation. Or they could go to a halfway house, which is basically sober living. I never knew what sober living was until my son went into sober living after each time he went to rehab. The thing is that 1 month of rehab is not enough. So let's just say it as it is. It should be really minimum 3 months that you try to keep your kid in rehab. They need more than a month. And then they go to aftercare, which would be like some kind of sober living with intensive outpatient program. I would suggest it be near a hospital, maybe a hospital that has a division, some kind of medical department that has an intensive outpatient program. They go 3-4 days a week. They'll go, in group therapy. They'll have their own therapy. A lot of therapy is needed to get through rehab recovery and being an addict. And it's not just going to be 30 days. It could be a lifetime. But at the beginning, it's not good to bring your kid or family member right back in to where they were before. It's just not. They're going to go back to their own old patterns. They're going to manipulate you. Most of the time, they'll drink and smoke like the next day because they're just not ready, especially if you got them into the rehab. If they went on their own, that would be a little different. They still need they still need comfort, support, and that extra support will come from sober living because they drug test them, because they're with other people experiencing the same thing as them. So they have that extra support of not feeling judged or low self-esteem. And also they're not being put back into an environment where they were before. So let's say all their friends smoke and drink and they can handle it. Why can't I, right? That's the simple question of the day. Why do some become addicts and some become functioning addicts or drug users? We don't know that answer. And then mix in the mental health, that doesn't help at all. So aftercare is really a great place to be after rehab. Now, how long do you stay in aftercare? It just depends. A lot of times your kid will manipulate you like mine did. After a month or two, I have 3 friends. We're all going to move into an apartment together. It's cheaper, and we're all going to stay sober together, and we all like each other. We're all going to get jobs, and all of that sounds great. All the manipulation always worked on me. So don't go by me with that. I definitely was manipulated. No, do not set them up in an apartment again. Do not start it all over again. Don't start getting the furniture. Don't worry about filling their refrigerator. Don't worry about who they're with or how they're going to get furniture for their room. Not your problem. No, no, no. The first thing is for them to get into a sober living location, a place where they could have the intensive outpatient program, because 1 month in rehab is definitely not enough. 3 months is a start. So that's where the sober living comes in. Again, they will drug test them. They'll look after them. They'll be around people that have in the same situation as themselves. A lot of times they expect them to have jobs. I think that's just unfair and unrealistic because that brings down their self-esteem, because it's almost like feels degrading to them, especially if they're kids that were already in college or looking to have certain types of careers. They're not really looking to go do car washing, which is really what typically most kids would get at that point, or a job at Starbucks. That would be fine too. But most of them, it makes them feel worse and brings on the low self-esteem immediately. So the best thing to do is get them into another safe environment where at least they're being watched, looked after, attended to, driven to all kinds of AA meetings and meetings that can help them, gambling meetings that can help them constantly just reinforce the sober living environments. Now, you can't keep them there forever. Nobody stays in sober living environments forever. Meaning, even people that go to AA meetings every night or 4 times a week and with the same people, if that's all your life is made up of, then it makes you feel like that's your only relationship with people, with the outside world. Like you're not back in reality where things are going to come up and you have to address them. Like when someone asks if you want to drink, and most people say, what do you mean you don't want to drink? Oh, why aren't you drinking? Why, what's that all about? Do you not drink? People are so inconsiderate. They have no clue why someone wouldn't drink or drinks or smokes. Oh, come on, just have a hit. What's the big deal? It's only pot. I mean, come on, seriously. All right. Well, we know pot leads from one thing to another, just like one sip of beer or any kind of alcohol spirals you down. Want to play poker? Come on, what's one game of poker? Oh, sure, yeah, what's one game? That won't hurt. There we go, back to gambling. So, yes, after the 3 months or 6 months, as long as you could keep them there, it's better in sober living. Then what happens is, they'll manipulate you. At that point, but I want to move in with friends. Then all the expense of setting them up somewhere. But it's cheaper. It's going to cost you less every month. Yes, it will. But in the long run, it costs you more. They're going to end up breaking their lease. They'll leave you behind. If you end up getting them a car lease or giving them the car again, they'll either damage it. They get in car accidents. Their tires are always flat. They're not responsible at all. The car becomes a wreck, mistreated completely, lent to other people without you knowing. And what will happen is that you'll be left with an apartment with new things that you started their lives all over again with that they just walk away from. That is a scenario that happens over and over and over again. And that is why aftercare is just as important as rehab. And a lot of people don't look at it that way. Oh, of course they're coming back home. Oh, no. 30 days and then he's like fine. Oh, no, he was so much better there. And then he came home and he's just drinking a little bit, but nothing like he was before. And he has a little bit of low self-esteem, but he's really not showing anything. Oh my God, denial. There's your denial stage. Denial, because this spirals again. If it starts, it goes down again. There's no way that someone can control it. Because at this point, a lot of them will either have some type of mental illness, some kind of psychosis. It will remind them of things that happened. They'll feel low self-esteem because none of their friends are at the same place as them. They're starting over. Their friends are not. They've moved on and their friends aren't around anymore. And now they're trying to figure out their own lives. And that's like right now, all they have to do is focus on getting sober and staying sober. And then they have to incorporate all these other things. Not good. So bringing them home is really not an option. And setting them up in a new apartment is not an option. Now, what happens if they're in school? They're in college. They drop out for a semester. Okay, they stay in rehab. They stay in rehab as long as you could keep them there. Then they go to aftercare. They go to intensive outpatient program somewhere near where they had rehab. It could be at a hospital location. It could be a private practices. Go on your insurance, see what they cover, and that will give them lots of therapy, private and group therapy. Then they could go to lots of meetings and spend 3 to 6 months working on themselves, which is what they're going to need. Then, if they are back in school, okay, you either make a deal with them that they have to take out loans, and if they finish the semester, you'll pay for that semester. But if they don't, they're going to be on the hook for loans. I know someone that did that, and I thought that was a genius idea. And then I know people that didn't do that, and their kids use them anyway. So basically, if you start going into off-campus housing, you know what that's entailed. You're going to have to sign for them. You're going to be responsible for their room. You're going to have to set them up, which we know is expensive. And then they're going to leave everything behind when they start drinking and smoking and misbehaving and misusing and thinking nothing matters and nothing's important, and even their own health. And then they end up on their drug addicts' couch, their drug dealer's couch, and that's not good. So let's go back to this. First, they go to rehab. The aftercare is definitely a halfway house / sober living. It is more expensive. They share a room with 3 other people. It's ridiculous what they charge, but it's necessary. Try to keep them in rehab as long as possible. If it's 6 months, awesome, even better. But if not, and it only comes out to 1 or 3 months, all right, fine. Then do the aftercare. Then go to the sober living. At least 3 months in sober living, if not more. Now, if they have to come home for a month and you see that they are acting better and they're really trying and they're not manipulating you, but they're on to the next stage, which would be either going back to school or they have a plan in place, they're willing to see a therapist at least twice a week. They're willing to go to some kind of intensive outpatient program. Just because they're home doesn't mean they don't do that. This will give them the group therapy and the constant reminder of where they were, where they are now, where they want to be, and with other people that are going through the same process as themselves, and typically their age. Now, what happens is that you set them up at school, they end up going back to school, and then they drop out because they're lying to you, they don't tell you what happened. And so there we go. You set up for the whole year, you paid for them, and then they come out back on Thanksgiving weekend and you realize, oh my goodness, they are starting to hallucinate. They are going to save the world. You don't know what to do. And you feel helpless. Yep, I absolutely agree with that. So now, what are you going to do? Well, at that point, you know that they weren't set, as much as you set them up to start their semester, it didn't work. So you are going to have to sublet that apartment right from underneath them. You are going to have to take away that car, if that's it. Not $1. Don't give $1. And they're going to have to end up getting themselves back into rehab again. So it is very tough to see which way to go. Bringing them back into the home is a very difficult thing. I do not suggest it to anyone. I know people say, they were at the halfway house and they were at sober living for a couple of months, and then it's like they just wanted to come home. Oh, they just wanted to come home. Okay, well, what about all that time that they were home and the way they acted and treated you and treated the rest of the family and manipulated and abused and stole? Is that under consideration too? These are things that are so important to remember and address. Aftercare is exactly what it is. Aftercare. There is no such thing as no aftercare. You can't just assume your kid's coming back from rehab after 30 days and everything is going to be better. Or at least that they're going to stay sober for a while. Not happening. I know people that literally came home the next day and started smoking, drinking. It's not going to work. So please do yourself a favor. Plan it out. Now, sometimes you might have a relative that says, okay, You know what? I have room in my house. They're doing rehab near me. I'll rent them out that room for a 3 months trial. And you try it out that way. That could work. Now, a lot of different ways can do it, but coming back home is not a great place to do aftercare. Sober living is, but it can be expensive. So that's why if you do have a place that maybe you could rent for them, just a room in someone's board house, or like again, one of these sober living communities, maybe they could work there at the sober living community and have free rent. There are ways of doing things like this. Now, I do also know that you could look into colleges that have sober living dorms. They are very equipped with this, and a lot of colleges have added this on to their campuses. You know, do I think that it works or doesn't work? I don't know. If a kid wants to smoke and drink, they're going to do it anyway. That's why being in rehab long enough helps, and as well as the aftercare. The aftercare is very important because they'll help them stay on track with the intensive outpatient program, and also going to AA meetings and addressing their therapy sessions at least once or twice a week private, and if they need to go to a psychiatrist and take meds for their psychosis or schizophrenia at that point, or anything else that they're experiencing with mental illness or depression. And a lot of times, most of them aren't sleeping. So they're up till all hours of the night and their schedules are all messed up. This will not benefit them in being in a home environment again. It will just drive you crazy. You'll start getting upset because they're sleeping till 12, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. No, that's not healthy. They need a purpose. They get up at sober living, they have to get up and they have to get going. And that is why it's such a good program. But it's not forever. And again, there are a lot of hospitals around the country that offer programs like this. There are a lot of practices that offer these programs. And this is why when you do get them into rehab, one of the things you asked is, what type of aftercare do you offer? Is there something local in that area? And what do they suggest? Because that would be a really good segue of finding out where they stop with the things they take care of as far as your addict. Okay, I hope this helped. And remember, there's no wrong or right way of doing anything because you just never know what the outcome's going to be. But just don't forget about aftercare. Okay, thanks for listening and have a great day.
Thanks for tuning in. I trust this episode brought you insight and strength, offering valuable coping strategies. Stay connected with weekly content, plus follow if you enjoyed, and be sure to journal for your own self-care.